Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it. And on this week's episode, you can't handle the truth, or can you?
We're going to be channeling a few good men to talk about inner truth and reactions. Talking about defensiveness.
Yeah, getting defensive.
The real D word.
All right, but first let's get into these skin deep cards this week.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
My question is, how do you find peace?
Well, it's changed over the years. And I guess I didn't really know what peace was. It was the first, key is to actually know what that is. But what I found is, peace for me is like when I can sit still and just notice where I'm at and appreciate what's going on, or where, what's actually happening in the moment. That's where I find my peace.
So in presence.
Yeah, and being present. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Okay, my question is, which one of my insecurities drives you crazy?
Let me count the ways.
Which one? You didn't notice that there was multiples.
Because I wouldn't say that you're an insecure person.
I think so.
Not outwardly.
Okay, yeah.
But I would say maybe behind closed doors is that you're not doing enough. I would say that that's not true. So sometimes you'll overdo.
I could see that.
Yeah, or that you are, maybe that you're like not doing enough even in being able to be heard.
I do find myself over-explaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also a defensiveness.
And I always think when someone's over-explaining, it's like, are you trying to convince me or you're trying to convince yourself? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little calling forward there.
Yeah, these impromptu questions sometimes are.
So let's get into this topic about navigating defensiveness in relationships.
Yeah, and I think what I'd like to start with is that, whenever we get together to do these podcasts, we don't really know what we're going to talk about until we get together. And we're like, what do you want to talk about? And even before we did that, we naturally started just having a conversation about life and talking about how, whenever you're having a conversation with someone that feels maybe confrontational for you, that you're being confronted with something, some truth that the other person carries, that there's a tendency to feel like you need to defend yourself.
Yeah. I mean, recently, and this happens all the time. It's been something that's been told to me forever. But I've been, trying to work on creating a safe place, specifically with like interpersonal relationships with my kids and my wife. And what's hard is because they say, oh, well, you don't feel safe to talk to sometimes. And so, me and my wife will go on walks to have our talk sometimes. And it makes it easier just because we're moving and things don't feel so heavy. But I had a chance to ask her how she felt about, something that I had done or how I had made her feel. And I really thought I was in a position to be open to hear that. And as soon as she started to, become vulnerable and start to tell me how she felt, right away I got defensive. And I started to feel like, oh, I need to justify, like I didn't mean to hurt, like all of these things. What I noticed is that I can't, my nervous system goes into overdrive if I feel that I've hurt somebody, and I can't be responsible for the person, be the person that hurt them. So that just triggers something to me to want to defend. And what that did in that particular instance was shut the entire conversation down. She had to stop divulging or you're being vulnerable and telling me how she felt, because I now had to be heard, and how, it wasn't my fault or whatever the justifications were, which are nonsense, because it didn't even allow her to have the first, what the intention of the conversation was, to be heard.
Yeah.
To divulge what she wanted to hear. And that I asked the question, how do you feel? How does this feel? And I couldn't even allow her to answer because of my defensiveness. It just triggered me to want to defend.
Yeah, and that would probably shut her down.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of the conversation. And so the conversation
Yeah,
really
she had to
didn't
walk
go anywhere.
away. Yeah, because it was like, still, I can't tell you anything. And I was like, but no, wait, I'm trying to listen, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
Afterwards, in retrospect, I was able to kind of just think, well, what was that? And I realized it was more specifically because I'm involved in the hurt. And I just wondered, I've done a lot of work to work on shame and guilt of those things. And somehow I'm still not okay with hearing that from the
Hearing
person.
that you're the villain.
Yeah, that I'm the villain.
Yeah.
So trying to find ways to overcome that defensiveness is what we're talking about here today.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is like that's with even years of work. That's even with years of like working on, self-awareness and like to some degree owning your own behavior and things that you've changed and have wanted to change. And so now part of the healing process is really, making amends, right? With things that we've realized that we've done to hurt someone. But an even harder part of that process is being able to hold that, like to hear it, and then to just be able to like validate the other person's experience without making ourselves suddenly the victim in the story of being able to hear it, because it's hard. I think it's really hard to hear that you've hurt someone or that you've done something that, led them to feel sad or angry or pull away from you. And it's a difficult place to be, to hear that with humility and just calm and be able to not feel like you need to defend your own behavior, especially when I would imagine for you is like, I'm not doing that anymore. What do you mean? Yeah.
And in a weird way, the word attacked comes, but it's not like I'm not being attacked, but I'm being accused.
You felt attacked.
I felt attacked. That's in that moment I do.
And then what does anyone do in the moment they feel attacked is they start to put up their defenses, which gets you the opposite of what you were actually trying to do in that.
Yeah. And this is years of practicing, intentional listening and trying to, repeat back and make the person feel heard. You could still have all those practices, but if it happens to be, if I'm not able to recognize my own triggers in those moments, I'm not able to make that adjustment.
Like you could have all the the knowledge, you've read all the books, but in real time, game time, when it comes down to having the conversation and really being able to be present, a lot of times our old defenses will sneak back in. And I found it even for myself. I mean, I know in my healing process, right? Like even my biggest things is how I've affected my children. And there are many things as a mother, and I'm sure with every parent, that they've done or said something that they really regret. And I would say it took a while for me to actually be able to sit and hold space for listening to how I've hurt them, like even in small ways and big ways. And I realized when I would even ask, like, yeah, tell me all how I've hurt you, because that's a big part of the healing process, right? Is like, even for my children to be able to voice to me how I've hurt them helps them to process those emotions that have maybe been stuck. And I know that. But still, even sitting with them and hearing it, it's not easy, because there's that small self that wants to be like, but you don't understand. Like, I had you when I was 17, or, we didn't have money, or I was really stressed and I had lack of maturity. And it's like, but they're not asking for why you did. They're just asking to be heard.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that I had to really check. And I think I described it to you as like making my surface area much larger so that I could just hold what was coming at me. And instead of taking it personal, which literally felt like a tidal wave of guilt and shame coming on me, right? Because I think one of the biggest things for me is if someone told me you're a bad mother, that's like the worst triggering wound that I could feel. And having to hear from my own children how I've hurt them, or, shut them down, or didn't support them at some point, it's triggering all of my own insecurities as who I am as a mom. But if I'm in that story, I'm not able to be present to hear them for the process of healing.
Yeah, and it takes many a conversations and practice to get there. It wasn't just one conversation that just worked.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, but it's a natural reaction, right? Because it's self-protection. Your ego pops up, and there's a fear of being wrong, of doing it wrong. All of those things are natural, instinctual things that come up when we're being challenged especially with our own behavior, and especially when that behavior is tied to guilt that you have. But it absolutely just shuts down communication. So even in instances where if my child was telling me something, my adult child is now telling me something that I've done that I've hurt them, I've been in that situation where I would start to cry, right? Because I feel bad. Like I literally feel terrible.
Is that an inappropriate response in that moment, you think, too?
I wouldn't say that it's inappropriate. I think for me, if it was something I was like, I don't even know how to hold this back.
Yeah.
But also even that shuts down the conversation, because now my child becomes responsible for my feelings, which this was a time for them to be heard. So it took some time for me to like understand that. And I think that it wasn't just about understanding that. I think it's about, part of it is about forgiving myself, that when I knew better, I could do better, and at the time I didn't, and I can own that. And I think a big piece of it is forgiving yourself before you go into those conversations. Or if you're not in a position to do that before you have the conversation, is to, understand that that's part of what's happening and do some work around that.
Yeah, I mean,
for yourself.
In many ways, I feel like, I've been going deep and grinding on trying to work on the shame and the guilt. And, a lot of it is, the difficulty understanding what I was capable of.
You mean back then?
Even now, I mean, you could be capable. I mean, you could look at somebody who's hurting me or being an asshole or being a jerk, and like I can be mad, or I can go, I'm capable of all of those things that person is also doing in this moment, based on whatever's going on with them. So I don't know how to take away, it being personal when the other person is trying to divulge how I hurt them. And that's where the difficulty lies for me. And I think you're right, like trying to work through the shame. And I feel like I've been working hard on that, but somehow I'm still stuck. And I think there's levels, just like everything, there's levels to it, to the healing. You think I've already dealt with that.
Yeah.
Well.
And it's like, knock, knock.
Yeah.
It's still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just think when you think you've gotten over that hurdle, then there's another teacher that shows up. And I know when you were talking about like even the conversation while you're having a walk and you're like, tell me how you felt. And my question was to you was, what were you making it mean when she said, you hurt me in this way?
Well, in a lot of ways, I had a question of like, oh, am I hurting you right now? Or have I not changed? You don't see what I've done? And those were the initial thoughts. It's like, but I'm doing all this work. It's that unworthiness or not doing enough. Like, oddly enough, about our cards that you said, one of your pet peeves about my insecurities is kind of overdoing.
So in that moment, instead of hearing that this is what was the experience from in the past, it's like it's almost like you were making it about like you in that moment, or like the present you.
Yeah. And there was no reason to even go there because the conversation had initially just basically started almost. So, but right away it goes into defensiveness, and that just shuts down the whole conversation. And I was in a position where I thought, okay, I'm ready to hear this stuff, Yeah.
You thought you were ready, but then boom, here's ego. Here's the walls come back up. Self-protection.
And it's not because she doesn't make me feel safe. It's that I don't feel safe within myself. It's kind of what I've been thinking about and really ruminating in my head. Like, I think it's really a safety within myself.
What does that mean to you?
It's hard when people say they don't feel safe to talk to me. It feels strange because in my other relationships, I have the opposite response. But I'm trying to analyze, like, what's the difference here? What's the pattern? And I think it really just relies on how I move within myself and what I feel with my own shame and my own guilt on what I've done and what I'm capable of and those things. And maybe I still do see that I'm still capable of those things and in some ways.
So you haven't learned to really trust your own healing.
I guess, yeah. Like, oh, he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old me is still there.
And that's one of the things that, is one of my, biggest triggers is whenever somebody, makes it seem like I haven't done any work.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then if I just throw that back on me, that's a Noelle thing.
Mm-hmm. Do I not think that I've done enough work?
Mm-hmm. And all of that, just to say, you could be doing all of the work. And if you're not listening, you could be doing all the wrong work that your partner or the person that you're having the conflict with is asking you to change. Mm-hmm. So I may have changed all of A through, Z, but I forgot one of these in between somewhere. There's something that I left out.
Well, I think the challenges are always in our most personal relationships.
Yeah. Well, because you got grit in the game. You're in.
Yeah.
There's something to lose. Yeah. And on the surface level relationships, it's easy just to cut off.
Yeah. Or to put your best foot forward. They get the ambassador of you.
Yeah.
Right. When our family and our deepest, relationships get like the whole you.
I mean, that's what I'm most guilty of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is really trusting that, that deepest part of yourself to fully be present in all relationships, not just the ones that you don't have as much skin in the game, grit in the game. What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in some ways, just hearing you say that, like even Aiden has said, my oldest son has said that, it seems like you're not very authentic because you're different, as an ambassador in front of everybody than you are at home. Mm-hmm. And so if I listen to that on a deep level, what I'm really hearing is I don't seem authentic to him all the time. And I think being safe is being the same person all the time, being, finding that peace within yourself.
Yeah.
Finding that balance.
What do you think the holdout is on that?
On what?
On like being able to just, be that at all times.
I'm not sure. If I knew, I'd probably be there, but I think the answer is serenity, to surrender to it.
Yeah, surrender.
To let that shift go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? I also think it's like being able to take the criticism, to hear it and humble yourself before it, and forgive yourself, at the same time. It's like, I think just being able to hold that space of listening. And I mean, I know for me at some points when I've had to sit, especially with my kids or with my husband, and hear them out about how my behavior has affected them.
Yeah.
It's like I literally have to imagine making myself bigger. Not like bigger than them, but like wider, bigger than the small self that is listening from the egoic place. Almost listening from like separating myself into the observer of what's happening and the observer of their experience and listening to what their experience was and not making it about me, Lena, their mom. Just really listening to this soul who is saying they were hurt and just having compassion for them while not having to defend myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Which is not easy. So I'm not saying to anyone who's listening, like, oh, that's an easy thing to do. Like
to detach from that situation.
Detach. And detach doesn't mean you don't care, but it's like to detach yourself from personally, from being the villain. Because as the observer, you also see this part of yourself that feels like the villain and can love that person too, and love the story that they were in at the time and the changes that they've tried to make, but also loving the person who was hurt. and understanding that those are real feelings. Like feelings are valid. I remember growing up or just in, my own experience, when my emotions were invalidated or someone told me why I shouldn't feel that way, whatever that was insanity to me. It's like, how can you tell me what I feel is not valid, that I'm wrong for feeling that? Like, that's wrong. It's wrong to do that. Whatever their experience is real. That's their perspective. That's how they experienced me or you. And invalidating it just shuts down the conversation. Like, in some way, we think we feel better because we've defended and we tell them, well, you were wrong. You just didn't understand what was happening at the time. But that's invalidating, what they felt.
Yeah, not willing to see it from their perspective.
No. And there's no healing that's going to come from that.
So recently, one of the methods of trying to overcome this defensiveness, I found it's helpful to do role playing. So, I really kind of went down and wrote down a lot of, specifically with my wife, some of the, specific complaints of how it feels to talk to me, things, just a memory bank of things that have been said to me over time of some of the chief complaints. And then I become Ellen and my therapist is me. And I now have to, with the motivation of what I think Ellen feels, now try to divulge or be vulnerable and then see what it feels like to explain what it feels, to me. And really what I found is when I tried to put myself in her shoes, I see how hard it is to talk to me.
Yeah.
And it really gave me a perspective of like, I do make it really difficult, especially if I cry or if I defend, that's not what needs to be happening here. So really going into and doing role playing before I have the conversation with the actual said person, it's been taking the steam out of the triggers.
I can see that.
And it's a practice of the conversation that needs to be had, the hard conversations.
Yeah. So role playing would be a good thing to practice even with a friend, a therapist, and really trying to step into the shoes of the other person.
Yeah, just to really get in tune with what, with the direction that they've given you the entire relationship. If you listen to the narrative, it's been there the whole time. And I really had to tap into that, try to like a method actor almost and like really take it serious.
Yeah.
And when I did that, then it becomes real. And it's like, oh.
Then you're like, wow, it is hard.
It is hard to talk to me. It must suck.
Well, I mean, not on all levels. I talk to you all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. I think it's those interpersonal relationships where there's
where
damage.
the most hurts have been, because you could either just say, well, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to shut down this relationship because I can't handle how hard I've been, but then that's not going to heal the relationship. It's not even going to help you heal because you're not taking ownership of how you've affected someone else.
Yeah. When a good defense loses the game.
Yeah, a good defense can lose the game. Okay, so what are some other, because one of the things I want, whenever people are listening to this is one, to figure out like if some part of this is resonating for you. If you are right now thinking about someone in your life that there's hard conversations to be had, but you've just been afraid to do it because you feel too guilty, too shameful. You're going to feel this extreme need to defend yourself. Like, how many people in your life do you have things like that with, right?
Yeah.
And just thinking from the perspective of one, like you're talking about role playing and thinking about how hard is it for that person to come to you to tell you how you've hurt them? Think about that. Like, we all have people like that in our lives.
Yeah.
Are you able to just sit with listening to the experience of someone else when it comes to you? Right. So some of the things that are recommended are, one is practicing a pause. And that's just, you're going to sit down and have a conversation with someone, whether it's at work or professionally is before you respond to them is to practice taking a pause, right? Not to just step right into reactivity.
Yeah.
Like there's a stimulus, there's a response. So
don't have a reaction.
Don't have a reaction.
Have a
just maybe you even make a rule for yourself that you're going to take a long, deep breath through your nose. And then you're going to thoughtfully respond, right? And think about this conversation, this podcast right now. And then reflective listening. So, and we've talked about reflective listening,
intentional listening,
deep listening, in the past. And so focusing on truly hearing and validating the other person.
And that's a simple, step. And I think in some ways, I've also heard especially when you have triggers like this and you're not able to kind of fully hear.
Yeah.
And you're in the early part of maybe healing in your relationship, just handle one side at a time.
Yeah.
It's I've got the conch, you know what I mean? And this isn't like Noel gets to like defend or talk about his grievances. This person's going to share. Yeah. And that's all. Yeah. And we're going to breathe on it. We're going to think about it and we're going to come back and put a pin in it and come back and talk about it. Yeah. And that may be.
That's like a long pause.
Yeah. That's a long pause.
Like let you sit with it. Yeah. Ooh, that's hard because if you're somebody that is very defensive, it feels like torture.
Well, you can set it's important to set a date of like the pause, you know, like, hey, we're going to touch base tomorrow or, so because it'd be unfair to the other person to have like a blank check of like when they get their reciprocity, Yeah.
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity. Yeah. Like that's not that won't fly. I would be, anxious even about that.
So that suggestion would be to allow the person to voice their grievance or how they were hurt, and maybe even plan that there will not be a response to that right away, that you're just going to let that be and then be able to come back and respond. You could even be in an hour, right? It could be whatever. One of the techniques that I've used in the past is the talking stick. Remember the talking stick? This is where you have like a stick that I have made by Native Americans. Like they're in a circle. So you have a talking stick or an object, and the person who has the object is the only one who can speak. And you cannot speak unless you have the object or the talking stick. That's allowing that person to be seen and to be heard. The other thing is,
it seems silly though, but it's a very visual, and it keeps people grounded, if you will. Yeah.
I have to do it with Mondo sometimes, an imaginary talking stick, and say, you do not have the stick. I'm still talking. When I give you the stick, then it's going to be your turn and I can't talk. So just giving each other space to express. And another thing with, the listening is repeating back what you heard them say.
Yeah, that's the part of the validating part.
I think that's one of the most powerful things you can do in a conversation, is to allow someone to finish and just say, okay, are you complete?
In their words, yeah.
Is there anything else? And then to say, what I hear you say is this. And say, is that right? And when you do that, it really diffuses any kind of like, heat in the conversation of like, I gotta say this, you're not getting me. And if they say no, then let them say how that was not correct, or to say, yes, that's correct. And then to ask, like, what I want to know more.
A deepening question. Okay.
Yeah, just being able to say, I hear that, you feel hurt, without jumping to a defense. You're just saying, I hear you. Is this right? Is this what you meant? Yes. And then it's not you jump to, well, let me tell you why you're wrong, right? Or let me tell you why I did that. We don't want to know why you did that. We just want you to hear how it made us feel. I think that's something a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, I think people take that for granted. It's a real, even for me. I mean, that's what I would expect. That's what I would want. I would prefer that.
What?
Just to be heard, and just the one side, and I don't want to hear somebody else's like
why they did it.
Yeah.
That's a major point.
Sometimes you do want to know.
But I'll ask you.
Yeah.
Why did you do this? If someone's not asking you, why did you do this? Please don't jump to your defense. When you did this, it made me feel sad, made me feel unseen. You know, a proper response would be, so what you're saying is, when I did this, when I left you there at the restaurant or whatever, I didn't show up on time, you felt sad and you felt like you weren't important. Is that right? Yes.
And let's be clear, like the person that may be divulging may not be nice about it.
Yeah.
Their delivery may not be, you made me feel this and all nice. It may be, you're a fucking asshole. You did. I mean, seriously, it could be.
You're right.
And you have to be willing to hear even an emotionally imbalanced complaint. You have to be able to, you have to allow them, whatever it comes out, to hear it in that way.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to prepare for.
You can't say, well, they weren't being nice, so I'm not going to be nice.
Yeah.
No, you are responsible for yourself.
I mean, within reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Within reason. But for the most part, you need to allow that person to be heard, whatever expression and form they need to.
I'll tell you, like, if you are able to hear someone's complaint out and you say, is this what you're saying? Yes. It diffuses the anger. It does. It diffuses the anger down. So it's worth a try. There is a book out called, wait a minute. There's one that's called Overcoming Defenses, but there's another one that I thought was good. It was How to Listen, Hear, and Validate. It's by Patrick King. And one of the quotes he has in it, let me see if I can find it.
There's so many beneficial things to.
He says validation encourages deeper understanding. And I think that is exactly what we're talking about is if you can say, I heard you and I understand this is what you feel. Can you tell me if that's right? Did I get that right? It will validate the person's feelings, and there may be room for that conversation to go in a place that's more positive, that's more nurturing, that leads to actually healing. So
do better.
Do better. When you know better, you do better. So here's a closing reflection.
Okay.
What I would like to do is invite the listeners to just try a small exercise. And the next time you feel defensive, just pause and ask yourself why. Why do you feel defensive? What story are you making about what you're hearing? And just choose to listen fully before you respond. Like, let them finish. And I really feel like this practice can deepen relationships over time. And isn't that what we want? We want that ripple of healing. We want people in our lives that are most important to us to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel safe in our presence, to feel like you can tell me anything.
Yeah, that's my biggest wish. And it happens to be my biggest challenge.
Well, right now you're living your curriculum.
Yeah. Do better. All right, that's been another episode of Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena. Let us know what your questions are, and we'd love to use them on a future episode. Or check us out on Insta at Let That Shift Go, or visit our website, serenitycovetemecula.com.